This is Bill Brady doing a recording for the Kingship Course. Topic this time is kingship in heaven and kingship on earth. We've all prayed the Lord's Prayer many times. Part of that is, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So the biblical principle is that things are first in heaven and then they are on earth as a reflection of what is already present in heaven. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it already is in heaven. Jesus was a king in heaven before he was a king on the earth. He was born a king on the earth, but you don't become an earthly king until you're crowned. And he tells us in the Gospels that he's going on a journey to be crowned, and then he'll come back. That's what the parable tells us. And when he comes back, he's going to take care of judging those who didn't want him to be king. And in the revelation of Jesus Christ, chapter 3, verse 21, Jesus tells us, actually, he's speaking to the church in Laodicea, but it's for us today as well. To him who overcomes, I will give to sit down on my throne, just as I overcame and sat down on my Father's throne. The throne that he gives us to sit on once we overcome is a heavenly throne. There are kings on the earth today. I mean, you can think of the monarchy in Britain. Those folks aren't kings in heaven. And there are believers in Africa who are kings on the earth. And it's very unlikely that they also are kings in heaven. And then today, there are many believers who are kings in heaven who are not yet kings on the earth. And the revelation of Jesus Christ, chapter 20, speaks about a time when there'll be kings and priests upon the earth. And Jesus, in a parable, spoke about a time when you would hear God say to you, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful in a little. And then he goes on in the parable. In one case, he gives the person kingship over 10 cities. In another case, he gives a person kingship over 5 cities. In another case, he gives a person kingship over 1 city, if I remember correctly. This is kingship on the earth during the millennial kingdom. But again, on earth as it already is in heaven. So your kingship, first off, is in heaven. And then at a later point, you'll actually be given kingship on the earth. Jesus was a king in heaven before he became a king on the earth. Well, I don't see that he's actually a king on the earth yet, because his overall kingship is divided up into thirds. The first third is functioning as a redeemer on the earth, who is one who is traveling towards being crowned as a king. Then death, burial, resurrection, ascension, functioning as a crowned king in heaven. That's the second third. And the third third is returning to earth as King of Kings and Lord of Lords and sorting things out on the earth. Now, he does have kingship in heaven right now. And he does function governmentally with respect to the earth as a king right now, but he's not seated on the earth as a king. There's no place on the earth, there's an actual physical throne that he's sitting on that I'm aware of. Okay, so your kingship will first be in heaven and then will be upon the earth. And your kingship in heaven does have influence upon the earth. You can function in kingship over an earthly city, function in heaven with respect to that earthly city, while there's no place in that earthly city where there's a throne that you're sitting upon, and the people in that earthly city would not acknowledge you as being king over that city, though in heaven you are. You can function as a king governmentally with other kings in what we call a bench. I've been doing that for many years. So kingship is both in heaven and on the earth. Kingship of believers, that is both in heaven and on the earth. It's first in heaven and then on the earth, just like with Yeshua, it was first in heaven and then on the earth. The throne that we sit down upon after we overcome causes us to be a king in heaven, but Jesus has already been there for quite a long time. In fact, he was there during the time he was on the earth, doing his ministry upon the earth. He was functioning as a king in heaven when he was not yet acknowledged as a king on the earth. He said to those who were judging him, "My kingdom is not on the earth." His kingdom was in heaven at that time. So Jesus functioned in what we call dual realms. He was doing certain things on the earth and other things he was doing in heaven. And he was doing things in heaven as a king, while on the earth he was functioning as a prophet and an apostle, actually the prophet and the apostle. And he was, if you want to say it, the prince on the way to being crowned, but he had not yet been crowned as king upon the earth while he was on the earth. That crowning occurred after his death, burial, resurrection, and ascension. Then he was crowned as king. So you are king first in heaven and then on the earth. You're not a king in heaven until you have done the journey to the place of being qualified to being a king in heaven. And we will talk about that during this course. What journey do you have to do to get to the place of being a king? And you will experience sitting down on the throne in heaven as a king, and you'll experience having the crown put on your head, the royal robes being put around your shoulders, and the royal scepter being put in your hand, and eventually a royal orb being placed in your hand to legislate laws. These are things that thousands of believers have experienced up to this time in heaven. This is not something that is new. It is not that common, but there are still thousands of believers today that are functioning as kings in heaven. And you do have a call to be a king in heaven. The question is going to be, have you done the journey to already become a king in heaven? And you may have. And if you haven't, are you going to do the journey that qualifies you to be a king in heaven?